Welcome to the Los Angeles Friends podcast. Today, on the side note, I have a couple of guests with me. Hi, guys. Hello.
My name is Jason Enright. I'm a community organizer here in North Hollywood. During my day job, I work for an organization called LA Forward. We try to sort of break down some of the mysteries and, the sort of peel back the curtain on what's going on in local politics, bring people the information and knowledge they need to make democracy work for them.
I'm Jillian Burgos. I am a former Los Angeles City Council candidate for District 2. I also work for LA Forward as an event planner, and I have a murder mystery theater company.
Oh, so wait, what's the name of your company?
Dainty Dames Events.
That is so cool. Okay. Sorry. Murder mystery. Just throwing that out there. I love that. That is so fun. I've only done a couple murder mysteries. I'm not very good at them.
That's okay.
Yeah.
It's kind of for everyone. Ours are kind of like a murder mystery, scavenger hunt, and escape room all wrapped into one.
Amazing. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. We're going to be chatting about the upcoming Los Angeles city elections, as well as the general election for California, which is where we're filming. We're in LA, right? So we're going to talk about some LA things. I did want to start off first with just a fun little icebreaker for you guys. Okay. Cool. This is our vibe check. This is what we're calling the segment. Okay. I forgot to mention that, but this is the vibe.
Check.
This is the vibe check. What is a small victory from this past week that you're proud of?
Ooh.
And if that feels too intense, let me know. My small victory is that I finally am learning how to edit video in Premiere Pro, which has been very difficult. But I feel like I'm getting somewhere, and I'm very proud of myself because I have no video editing background. But
that's great.
Here we are. That's my small victory.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So for the last, since January, so for the last 5 months, we have been putting on this NoHo Locals meetup the first Monday of every month at Lawless Brewery here in North Hollywood. And the small victory was that our last one, we did a ballot party. And we had been really, really busy. And so we had kind of in the last 5 days done the promotion. Normally we give ourselves a 2 or 3 week runway. We do multiple rounds of promotion, all this stuff. But I had a late meeting and I rushed over to Lawless and it was packed. And so that was a small victory for me, was that I feel like what we'd been building over the last 6 months, the work had been done and it turned out really good. And there was probably 60 people there without us even putting in a ton of effort.
60 people is a lot.
Yeah.
That's amazing. How cool.
Thanks for stealing my small victory.
Sorry.
Just kidding. I'm just kidding. What's my small victory? We're pulling off this new amazing vote center race. And it's actually in less than 2 weeks planning a scavenger hunt from the ground up for voters and to find joy in voting and celebrating our democracy.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So, just pulling it all together, seeing it come together, and all of the things that people tell you can't do in 2 weeks, being able to accomplish that as a team.
Oh, I'm so excited to see how it goes.
Thank you,
Those are great wins.
Yeah.
Big wins, actually,
Thank you.
The main reason we have you guys here is because we wanted to make an episode about what we're going to be seeing on the ballot and the importance of voting in our city elections. I've heard a lot of people say that voting locally doesn't matter. And it is a little frustrating. What do you guys think about it? I could tell you guys have some opinions, so let's hear it.
The national issues seem really important, right? They're really big, but they don't actually interact with your day-to-day life very often. But every day you get up and you drive down a road, or you interact with your, sanitation system, your water system, whatever. Yeah. All of those things are decisions that are made by people, whether your sidewalks are fixed, your streetlights are working, your roads are, paved well, whether there's enough trees so that it doesn't get 1,000 degrees here in the valley, on a hot day, where your kids go to school, how good those schools are. Those are all things that are done locally. The major thing the federal government does is give money that trickles down into those programs. So yes, if the federal government makes big cuts to programs and things, that's going to affect you. I think the things people really vote on at the federal level honestly don't affect them that much.
Yeah.
You know, but the things like choosing your city council member, someone who really upholds your values and supports the kind of people you want to support, voting for your mayor, your county supervisor, these are like positions where a small group of people hold an immense amount of power.
Yeah.
You know, here in the city of LA, we have 15 council members. We have 5 county supervisors. We have 7 school board members. And like that handful of less than 30 people make so many decisions about your day-to-day life.
And people don't know their names. They don't. No one knows who they are.
Yeah.
But they affect your day-to-day life. And it's so important. Yeah.
I think I wonder if like the reason why people think that it's not important to vote locally is because they get frustrated at the fact that when we vote for president, the electoral college like kind of makes it feel like our vote doesn't matter or doesn't get heard. But here on a small scale in our city, like it can make a huge difference. One person voting and one person not.
After this past election, we realized that a lot of people were really disillusioned. People were really needing community more than ever. And 2023, when we had the entertainment strikes, we built community by having meetings at Lawless with the entertainment, with WGA, with SAG-AFTRA. After we were on the strike lines, we would transition to go to Lawless and have a drink and talk with each other. Bring strike leaders to speak, bring writers, actors to come out and speak. And so we thought, well, what are we going to do now? You know, everyone is feeling really down and we don't want people to give up. The biggest thing about fascism is that they want you to give up. They depend on you to give up. And that's how it takes over. And so Jason and I, we just kind of looked at each other and we're like, we got to start up our locals nights again.
Yeah.
And
it's so awesome that you guys do that. Yeah.
There's been an effort throughout my entire life by one political party to make government the enemy and to make government seem really inefficient and ineffective. And whenever they're in power, they cut back government and then they go, government's not doing anything for you. And it's like, well, because you're cutting it back and all that, right? I think the thing that people really need to get excited is to see wins again, to actually see their politicians winning things for them. It was about 4 years of work, but last year we cut the rent cap for renters in rent stabilized units in Los Angeles in half. And this is the first major change to that rent stabilized ordinance in 40 years, right? Whoa. So it hasn't changed in 40 years. It was set during the 80s when inflation was super high. And it was this complicated formula. Basically, every year they take the inflation, they did some math, they figured it out. But the thing that was important about it was that it could go up as high as 10%. So your rent could go up 10%. And these are in rent-controlled units that are meant for like old elderly people or veterans on fixed incomes, or low-income families, things like that. So like
that could be a lot.
Yeah. 10%. So 10% increase is huge. And then even when it was a low inflation year, because it's supposed to be tied to inflation, it had a floor of 3%. Before. So even if it was a 1% inflation year, your rent still went up 3%.
Oh.
So the costs for the landlord are only going up 1%, but your rent was going up 3%. So we got that cut down to where now the ceiling is 4%.
Okay.
We cut this in half, and like people are going to start to feel a real effect on their wallets because of that.
Totally.
And I think like that's the kinds of things, like we need these bold visions for how to change things. And we need people willing to say like, yeah, maybe that's the way it's always been, but it doesn't need the way it always needs to be. Every year I look at the voter turnout and it's kind of depressing, like here in LA, like we're having a primary election right now. Voter turnout's going to be between 20 and 30%.
Of all
Angelinos eligible to vote.
Yeah.
Right.
20% seems very low.
So 4 million people, imagine like 1,200,000 are going to vote. Democratic policies, progressive policies do better the more people vote.
Yeah.
Millennials are for the first time going to start to outnumber like boomers and
let's go.
and look, there's nothing wrong with elderly people, but like
Fair enough,
like
yes.
they're this is our world now, right?
Yeah.
Like we are the adults.
Exactly.
We're coming into power, but we don't vote at the levels they do.
Yeah, and I mean, there's 80-year-olds putting policies in place that they're going to be out, in a couple of years, and then when we're going to grow up into that world that they're creating for us, it's just.
I try to encourage, and I try not to blame people for not voting. Life is hard. There are people working 2 jobs. There are people, all these things going on. So my goal is to try to give people the knowledge and the space they need and like encourage them to understand why this is important.
What are some important things that are on the ballot that are going to affect people's everyday lives?
I mean, there's a couple of offices that are really important that people have no idea who these people are.
Yeah.
Which is like our city attorney, the state insurance commissioner, and Board of Equalization.
Okay.
And these are offices that affect the taxes that we pay, that affect, especially like with the fires, affect our insurance, and all the natural disasters that we've been having. And like the city attorney who fights for renters, or supposed to fight for renters, and fight against wage theft.
Yeah. Actually, we got to interview Marissa Roy. And I'll be honest, was ignorant, did not know what that position was at all until I started seeing that she was campaigning for it, because I followed her on Instagram and we know each other through the LA Friends meetups. And it was really nice to have her on and educate me and hopefully educate whoever else got to watch the episode, because I didn't realize how important that position really is. And so I hope people get out there and vote and make an informed decision.
You want to vote for people who hold your values and who understand like sort of where you come from. Marissa's made a big thing about how big wage theft here is in Los Angeles. We're like the wage theft capital of the world. And people are out there working really hard and not getting their overtime pay, not getting their holiday pay, all these sort of things. And sometimes it takes a higher power, like a government body, something like that, to sue to get these big, it's like, if you're a worker, how are you going to take on Amazon or Target or something like that?
Yeah.
But, the city attorney can do that. They can do like a class action lawsuit and get these companies to follow. And we're not even talking about like making new rules. It's getting them to follow the rules that are in place.
Just actually follow what's existing already.
And especially for like our undocumented population, like sometimes they're afraid to speak up and they get taken advantage of.
Absolutely.
About 8 years ago, we changed a couple rules here in LA that have really changed the way politics work. One is our elections for city council and mayor and things like that used to fall on off years, so in like we would vote for president and then in the odd numbered year we would vote for mayor, and so the turnout was even lower. Right. And there were city council people and stuff like that who were like winning their seats with like 10,000, 15,000 votes in a district of like 275,000 people.
It still happens.
Yeah.
Wow.
But so we changed a rule to make those fall on the even number years and increase turnout. The other thing we did is we created this matching funds thing so that a grassroots candidate, if they can raise like $100,000, that gets matched and becomes like $600,000. And they have to raise that money from like people in LA. It has to be local. It has to, it can't be like, AstroTurf stuff from out of state or whatever. They can't take big money. They can't, they have to do a certain number of debates. There's like rules to it, but they get this matching funds that allowed like normal people to start running who aren't like lifelong politicians. And so over the last 8 years, we've managed to get like 4 progressive people, working class people on council. We have the first ever renter on council. So we've been able to get like real working class people on council. We have real working class people running for mayor this year. We're like the spearhead of this movement that's changing things in Los Angeles. But the other thing that people need to realize is that there's a really powerful movement that's against us right now. I think we're going to get into this later, but like, you really want to start to pay attention. That you're going to be getting hit these next couple weeks, or you already probably have. With like a lot of ads, things in your mailbox, paid for by outside forces. The point I want to make is just, if your vote wasn't important, these people wouldn't be spending millions and millions of dollars to win it. right? And to
Absolutely.
like trick you into
Yeah.
voting a certain way.
People don't realize that each round of those mailers costs at least $50,000 to like $250,000.
They're expensive.
Yeah.
They're so expensive.
What are independent expenditures and can they affect our elections?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how we were saying, like we're being infiltrated right now with a lot of mailers. Those can be independent expenditures. We're outside money, like outside individuals, PACs, unions. Different groups will spend money to either support a candidate or to oppose a candidate. And then they're not supposed to have any communication with that candidate or that campaign. Yeah.
I just thought about Zach.
Yes.
Zach Sokoloff and his mom.
So there's supposed to be certain rules about this, right? Like if you have an independent expenditure, you're not supposed to have any contact or any coordination with the campaign. So the campaign can't tell you like, hey, we're really trying to hit 18 to 25-year-olds in this one area. Or they can't say like, hey, this is our favorite photo of the candidate. Or like, hey, we've done some polling and housing is the most important issue. And if the IE does polling, the independent expenditure does polling or anything like that, they're not supposed to tell the candidate, right? There's one candidate in our city race right now who has an IE that's spent about $4 million. That is, the IE is his mom. His mom is a very rich woman and has dropped $4 million into the race.
And doesn't live in California.
So tell me, how are you not having any contact or coordination with your own mother? I mean, especially around Mother's Day.
I was going to say, she had a really lonely Mother's Day. Right?
Okay, this is crazy to me because $4 million, why not donate that to the city? Like to something that'll help people, help Angelinos in a positive way instead of to talk smack about your son's opponent, you know?
Yeah, that's infuriating to me. I think about all this money that like electioneering has really become a business.
Yeah.
And people hire consultants. They spend millions of dollars to win or lose an election.
Yeah.
And what could we have done with that money? Like how many unhoused people could we have fed? You know, how many children's programs could we have created?
Yeah.
Things that actually help people.
If politics is really your thing, think of how many like smaller candidates across the board you could have, you know, like there are people who run races on $100,000.
Yeah.
So that $4 million, you could have run like 40 local races.
I'm one of those people.
Yeah, you know?
Yeah.
Like
4 million. This reminds me of how I ran for ASB president in 6th grade. I should have had my mom give me more money for that.
Right?
Yeah.
What was up, Mom?
Yeah.
Why didn't she help you?
Where's my $4 million, lady?
Well, and
Crazy. Yeah.
I think we need to talk for a minute about one of the biggest spenders in our city right now.
Okay.
So Airbnb is really interested in our city right now.
Because of the Olympics, maybe?
Because the Olympics are coming, the World Cup's coming. But also, so there's a thing called like the vacation rental tax, right?
Okay, yeah.
And Airbnb over the years has been able to get a lot of cities to weaken their vacation rental tax. So essentially Airbnbs don't count for it, right?
Gotcha.
We have a very strong vacation rental tax that does cover things like Airbnb. And Airbnb is trying to really hard, they're lobbying city council to change those rules right now.
Yeah.
But they're also spending a ton of money. You may have seen these signs all around the city that say "Save our services."
Sounds nice, right?
Right, and they're promoting this idea that if the city had more tax money, they could save our services. So they're suggesting that they get to prepay their taxes for the Olympics, and that will help the city out so they can save our services. But in exchange, we want them to change these rules for us. That will allow, because it's not that they don't want to pay the tax at all. What they really want to change is right now, you can't rent out in the city, like a second home. So if I own a home, I can rent my own home to people for the Olympics.
Okay,
and that's fine. Like, cool, go ahead and do that. But if you own like 4 other properties elsewhere in the city, you can't rent those out on Airbnb. And they want all of that to open up. And the reason that would be a problem is you could have some big corporation come in or some really rich person come in and start buying up homes and apartments all over the city
Yeah.
that should be going to people in the city who need homes and apartments.
Yeah,
And then just
yeah.
turning them into year-round rentals.
Mm-hmm.
And that would hurt our housing stock even more.
Yeah.
Because like the thing we need to do to get out of this housing crisis is build more housing stock, you know? So when you go to look for an apartment, there's a lot of options available. That competition will drive down prices.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but if Airbnb turns all of them into vacation rentals, then that's never going to happen.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
very, very
So they're
scary.
spending tons of money on these Save Our Services campaigns, on races. People are getting mailers telling them certain candidates are bad or certain candidates are good.
Airbnb
And it's
is
all
doing that?
coming
Yeah.
from outside big companies like Airbnb trying to buy your vote.
Yeah, I actually just got a text
Yeah.
message from them yesterday,
Yeah.
and I responded back and I said, "Who is Save Our Services?" And I didn't hear anything.
Wow. That's so sneaky of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so they would be considered what was the independent
Well,
expenditures.
I don't know. There are different ways you can organize, and IE is one of them. I don't know exactly how they're organized. I haven't looked into it, but if you go on any of these things, like on any of these things, they have to list their website and they have to list who their top donors are.
Yeah.
And if you look in, and sometimes they'll use like silly, they'll create a shell company just to put on that thing. But if you go and you look into it on their website, you can normally see the full list of donors.
Okay. Yeah.
And and see who's behind it. And
Yeah.
a lot of times it's like big companies. A lot of airlines get involved. Like there's a lot of like weird things like that go
the
into
heck?
it. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes they hide under for these IEs. So sometimes it's like really obvious who is the funder. So when you flip it over, there's a disclaimer area.
Okay,
And
yeah.
it says, this is being funded by, like Jason
Yeah.
said, Airbnb. But there are nonprofits that are also doing this that are kind of dark money. They're a little bit more obscure on
Okay.
who they are. Like there's
Yeah.
one that's really plaguing our elections right now, and it's called Neighbors First.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and the funny thing is first of all, they're not our neighbors.
They're from like the Sacramento area.
Yeah. So
Come
Marin
on.
County,
the
400
heck?
and something miles away. And nobody knows who these folks are.
Oh.
And they're actually run by like a Republican like law firm, I believe. Yeah. So
This is
yeah.
crazy.
And
Yeah.
they infiltrated San Francisco's elections the last couple of cycles. And now they're really interested
In
in
LA.
Southern California, and they're going after all of the progressive candidates and trying to unseat them.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm glad we covered the independent expenditures.
Yeah, and just so people know
Yeah.
too, there can also be like good independent expenditures. A lot of times unions will pool their money to
Okay.
support a candidate
Sure.
who's, worker friendly and things like that. I think what's important is that we need to like strengthen the rules around these things and then strengthen the enforcement around those rules.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And I mean, hopefully eventually we can like get this kind of money out of our politics.
Yeah.
But that would require like things at the Supreme Court and all these sort of things.
Yeah.
For now though, we can like strengthen our rules and actually enforce the rules on the books.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Thank you guys for sharing about
Yeah.
that. No, I'm glad we covered that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what's on the ballot. This thing is kind of confusing. This is a mail-in ballot. So I have mine right here. I still got to fill it out, but I will before it's due. I wanted to talk to you guys about measures, what they are, and how do they directly impact us here in our city.
Yeah. So have you ever been in the grocery store and you see those guys and they're like, can you sign this thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
In the state of California, we allow ballot measures can be put up by governing bodies.
Okay.
Or they can be put up by voters. So if you gather enough signatures, you can get a measure put on the ballot, right? And I don't remember the exact math, but it's like a percentage of the total number of voters in the region. The city council could vote and put a ballot measure on the ballot.
Okay.
And so sometimes ballot measures are just used by people to create or pass a law that maybe they wanted to get done through regular means and they didn't. Generally, what you see a lot of ballot measures is there changes to the tax code because there are rules about like you can't change certain taxes or create new taxes without voter approval. You
Okay.
can't just do it out of the blue.
Yeah.
So like this year, you're going to see 4 tax measures on your ballot. There's other things like if you want to change like the rules of how people vote, the rules of the city, things like that, or the rules of the state, you have to go to the voters. You can't
Yeah.
change the Constitution, or cities have what are called charters
Yeah.
without voter approval. And actually, you'll see in November this year, we're going through this big process to change the charter. It basically, anytime something's big enough, it needs voter approval, it has to become a ballot measure.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Some people don't realize that some of these measures, like Measure ER, it's not a permanent measure. It's a half-cent raise in tax and sales tax, and that's to fund like our emergency rooms, Planned Parenthood, mental health services, different things that have been affected by our current federal government that have had cuts.
Yeah.
We're seeing hospitals closing in small rural areas. It's to try to offset that. A lot of people are losing their Medi-Cal or losing their insurance, and it's to try to combat that right now. So it's for 5 years, and it's a half-cent tax.
Yeah. Okay.
The 3 other taxes that you'll see on your ballot actually aren't taxing like us; they're taxing businesses.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
there's
CB.
a cannabis tax. There are people following the
Licensed and
rules,
unlicensed.
licensed and unlicensed cannabis dealers in the city,
Okay.
and this would tax the unlicensed ones like they tax the licensed ones. Basically,
Gotcha.
it's trying to like level the playing field. A lot of the licensed cannabis dealers have been like, I'm following all the rules. I got this expensive license, and this other guy's able to sort of outprice me.
And a lot of the unlicensed cannabis businesses, they're finding that they're in like lower income areas and that they might not be following all the regulations. So this is trying to encourage them maybe to go ahead and get licensed.
Yeah.
And it would also
Okay.
raise a bunch of revenue for the city, and the city's in need of revenue.
That's kind of confusing then. So they can sell cannabis without having a license to sell it, or
I believe there are certain cannabis products you can sell without needing a
okay.
license.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you can go into like a smoke shop and sometimes they have
Yeah.
like some CBD stuff or, things like, okay, gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other 2, they have to deal with taxing, like we talked about earlier, the short-term rentals. And then the other one is increasing the hotel tax just for the period of the Olympics. And the idea is like, hey, we're going to have all this extra stuff coming in. We can raise some money by raising the taxes during this Olympic period. And then it would drop back down. It would still be higher than current, but it would drop down a bit after the Olympics. Those will affect people coming in and staying in hotels. You know, when you check out for your hotel online, you see the taxes and fees at the bottom. It's going to be there.
Yeah. Okay.
So the thing with the county tax, that's going to be the half-cent sales tax for 5 years, is it is designed to fill in gaps left by federal cuts. You know, the federal government cut a lot of programs that has trickled down to the state, and the state having to cut programs that trickles down even further to the county. And there's a lot of things that the county Department of Health does, the county Department of Mental Health, that are at risk of being cut.
Yeah.
This tax raises revenue, and it is said that it'll go towards these things. When you create revenue, you can either put it in a special fund or a general fund. And a special fund says like it has to be spent on these programs.
Gotcha.
Because they're not entirely sure yet how the cuts will play out and what's going to be hit hardest. They haven't said in the way the ballot measure is written, like 10% of the money has to go to this, 20% has to go to this. It's going to raise money, but then the county supervisors are going to be able to vote when they create their budgets in future years, decide where that money needs to go. So one critique of this is that people are saying, like, you're saying you're going to use this money for XYZ, but it doesn't actually enforce that.
Yeah.
But I think the counter argument to that would be, well, we don't know what cuts like the Trump administration might make in the future, or if we somehow got a Republican governor or a Republican, mayor, things like that. So it gives them the freedom to use that money where they need to use it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't put that in the
Right.
world.
Just knocking on wood with you.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for the explanation, because that was something that we were a little bit confused on as well.
Yeah.
Okay. In LA and in California, there's a lot of really important races happening. We're about to elect a new mayor this year. We're going to elect a new city attorney, a lot of new positions, right? And so I wanted to talk to you guys about if there are any specific candidates or platforms that are really standing out to you guys right now that you want to shine some light on, good or bad, we're open to hearing whatever you guys have to say. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a group of progressive candidates. You might have seen them like referred to as like the DSA LA slate, the like Shake Up LA slate, or, you know, but a lot of orgs have endorsed the same sort of group of 6 candidates. So there's at the city level, so anyone in the city of LA is going to vote for city attorney and city controller.
Right.
Our
And
current
mayor.
and mayor.
Yeah.
And mayor. Our current controller, Kenneth Mejia, is running again. He's done a really good job, like creating transparency and accountability in the city. He does these audits. You may have seen he's put up billboards like showing how much where our money's being spent. City races, you can be in power for 8 years.
Right.
So 2 terms of 4 years. So he's running for the second time. This would be his last 4 years as controller if he's elected. I highly recommend people vote for him. His opponent is backed by really dark money. We talked earlier about Marissa Roy, who's running for city attorney. And then there's also a number of city council races and school board races as well. So, do you want to talk about any of those?
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize that every single city council seat is super important right now. We're trying to get to a super majority of progressive seats. And as Jason said, we have 4 that were elected the last cycle. We could have 2 additional ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, you know, but also we need to protect our incumbents as well. So, you know, Councilmember Hernandez has been under attack. She has 4 people running against her. She's also had ads from Neighbors First and some of the other dark money is after her because she has been very successful in implementing like unarmed crisis response and making sure that it's actually a part of our city budget annually. And she's not beholden to any corporate interests. And so people don't really like that. You know, billionaires don't like to not be listened to.
Yep.
So, and she's unbossed and unbought. So, you know, that's why we need to support her.
Awesome.
Yeah, and she's gotten a really important seat on the budget committee, and having a progressive voice on the committee that decides how all our city dollars is spent has really changed the conversation. You know, for the first time last year, they didn't just blindly approve a bunch of new cops. You know, they actually asked questions about exactly how many do we need to recruit?
Yeah.
Why are we recruiting this many? She pointed out that you know, those helicopters you hear all over all the time.
We hear them a lot here in the North Hollywood area.
The study that determines how many helicopters we need, how often we should replace them, how they should patrol is 40 years old. It hasn't been updated for 40 years.
Come on. Yeah.
A lot of stuff hasn't been updated for 40 years.
And she's been pushing to get them to study it again and determine, with all the new technology we have, do we need all these helicopters?
Gotcha.
Because they spend a lot of money on gas and things like that. It's very expensive to fly helicopters all day long all over the city. Yeah. So having these new, young, progressive voices in council has been really threatening to the status quo. And this is the first election that a lot of them are up for re-election. You're seeing a lot of money being spent to try to unseat them.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you see a Eunice Hernandez on your ballot, Hugo Soto Martinez on your ballot, those are people who've already been council members who are running again.
Okay.
And then there's Faiza Malik, who's running on the west side, in the Palisades area. She's running to unseat Tracy Park, who's probably the most conservative member. She's a climate denier. Yeah. She isn't just pro police. She's pro police brutality. You know, she's pro the worst things the police do.
And she stopped affordable housing from being built.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, she's actually gotten in the way of the progress, things that have been voted on before that were supposed to be, you know, going forward. And so we really need to make sure that we support Faiza Malik.
Yeah.
And she's, you know, a human rights advocate, an attorney, a renter's advocate, and definitely a really bright progressive voice that the West Side needs and deserves.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then a race that's going under a lot of people's radar. There's a district in South Central LA called District 9. It's been represented for the last 12 years by a man named Kern Price. Sadly, in that district, there's been a lot of like Kern Price is currently under investigation for corruption. His chief of staff is under investigation for corruption. His chief of staff is running to replace him while under investigation for corruption.
Okay.
There's a ton of money being spent to elect that guy. But running against him is this really great community organizer named Estuardo Mazariegas. When I talked about earlier, we fought for rent control. He was right there on the front lines with us. He leads an organization called ACE that is an organization in the city that fights for, working class people. He's been organizing for like 20 plus years. And he's running for council, and he would be like a totally unique voice on council because he's coming from the community, and that community is one of the poorest, most low income areas in the city, and it's like really been stripped of a lot of its resources, and he's really fighting to bring equity to that neighborhood and to represent those people. So that's another really important seat. But yeah, all these seats are important, and what's cool too, when you elect a city council member, you can actually go and meet that person. Like you can talk to that person.
Yeah.
You can have meetings with them and with their staff. Like that's what's so cool about local politics is like we regularly meet with our council member and get, we're able to tell him what's important to us or tell him this was a good job. This was something, don't do that so much anymore, and they have to listen because like we said, not a ton of people vote here. So you can create a movement. You can oust these people if you need to. I hear a lot of people saying like, I'm unhappy about the police. I'm unhappy about this. Then you got to organize and vote them out.
Yeah,
exactly. You can't just show up on election day. You have to show up every day for your community.
Yeah, build some momentum and educate people, and hopefully that's what we're going to be doing here with this episode. Okay, so because we're talking about all of these different people that we should check out their campaigns, I want to talk about voter guides. Because I think that those are a great resource for people. So I don't know if you guys want to quickly walk us through what a voter guide is, and how they can help busy people, especially here in Los Angeles.
I mean, a lot of trusted groups have put out voter guides. There'll be some news publications, but there'll also be some nonprofits, community advocate groups. So there's several that I know I trust. I trust like the DSA, Knock LA Forward. Those are some of the voter guides that I go to. These people really put a lot of research behind the candidates and behind the measures before they make a recommendation. And they kind of break it down for you, make it easier because, not all of us are lawyers. We don't all understand this language on there, and they just make it very easy and digestible.
Okay.
That's amazing. Generally when you go on a voter guide, you'll see like they'll have the list of the races and you can click them and go to a race. And then you may see them say like recommended, and they'll recommend who to vote for. They may even, if they say endorse, that means like their organization went through some kind of endorsement process, and endorse is like even stronger than recommend.
Okay.
Or it may say no recommendation, or sometimes you'll see like recommend like anyone but Spencer Pratt or something like that.
Please, anyone.
A good voter guide will also then have like an explanation. It might talk about several of the candidates, why they picked the one they did, talk about their records, important votes they took, and different voter guides may have different focuses. So one I really suggest for people, there's an organization called La Defensa. What they do is so like when it's not election season, they actually go out and they send people to like watch court cases and like sort of review or sort of write up the judges. Is the judges following the rules? Are they
because we are
being
voting
legal?
on
All
judges.
these sort of things. But so they're really knowledgeable about judges and about the law. And the thing I hear all the time every year during election season is, how do I vote for all these judges? Right? There are like 100 something judge seats in the county, and when one is up, there's an election for it. And judges can serve for a long time. And there's not a lot of information about them. You don't get a lot of like ads, or you're not seeing on YouTube, like vote for this judge. So La Defensa goes through and they either recommend or don't recommend, or, they go through all the different judge races. So that's a really great resource to go to when you get to that part of your ballot that's often really difficult for people.
I learned something really interesting last night about the judge races. I met a candidate last night and I said, what area are you going to represent? And she said, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I did not realize this, but like a city council candidate knows what their parameters are. The mayor knows what their parameters are. A judge has no idea what area they are going to represent. So it is very hard for judge candidates to campaign when there's over 4 million people that you may potentially be representing. Who do you go speak to?
Yeah.
And so La Defensa is the top of the line when it comes to the recommendation for judges, and makes it very clear and simple and easy. And also, I do think, I know how Jason was saying, some endorse certain candidates and then recommend other candidates. Not all of these publications have the capacity to endorse in every single race. So I do think recommendations are still very important, especially in judges when there's so many people running. They're not going to be able to endorse all of the judges, but a recommendation is a strong, factor, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
And also you, depending on what issues are most important to you, check multiple voter guides. Don't just go with one because especially there's 2 races this year, the governor of California and the mayor of LA.
There are a lot of people on the ballot.
There are a lot of people running for it, and they're very contested, And when you look at the voter guides, you're going to see that, you could look at 4 progressive voter guides. Like, say you looked at Knock LA, DSA LA, LA Forward, and La Defensa. They might recommend different people for those races. And so I think it's important to read those and see what things they're focusing on and compare and contrast, because this year, especially for governor and mayor, it's a hard choice, and you're not gonna see consensus down the board where everyone's saying the same thing. And so it's important to sort of read these voter guides and think about what sort of issues and values you value the most when you're making that decision.
Yeah.
Something I feel like's fallen off the radar the last couple of years is climate. I think we're really at a terminus point for climate, where if we don't start to make in the next 10 years, real changes to how we power our cities, how much greenhouse gases we create, things like that, we're going to hit a point of no return.
Yep.
And because of the strong focus, especially since the pandemic, I feel on housing and homelessness and things like that, not a lot of people talk about climate, but you can see they may not specifically address climate, but look at some of the things for governor, who's taking oil money, who is has a good policy about AI data centers.
Yeah.
And the reason those things are important, AI data centers are going to be a huge fight the next 10 years.
Yeah, they're trying to put
and there's
a few here
ton of money
county
going into those. And those are hugely resource expensive. Something we've seen over the last 30 years is when the internet really became a big thing, governments weren't prepared to create regulations. So now we're trying to regulate these things after they've become huge and a part of everyone's life. With AI, and especially with AI data centers, we need to make the rules now. If we're going to allow them, what are the regulations on them to make sure they're not poisoning our water, all these using up too much energy, all these sort of things.
Yep.
If you could make a data center that ran solely off of solar, maybe that's okay, but you need to put those rules in place now. And sadly, there are certain candidates who are taking a lot of money from big tech, a lot of money from oil companies, a lot of money from these things that aren't going to be good for the climate. They may be great on other issues that are important to you, but that's why I say you got to think of the whole picture.
Right.
Yeah.
And follow the money.
And follow the money. Always follow the money.
Yes.
Yeah.
There is
Always.
not going to be one perfect candidate. It's impossible. But what are your things that the hill that you will die on?
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. Well, thanks for going through the voter guides and recommending some.
Yeah.
They're going to be really helpful, I'm sure, for a lot of people. Our deadline to vote for the primaries is coming up.
Yep.
June 2nd.
By
June 2nd. By June 2nd.
And I'm actually going to give people a caveat. So in previous years, you could get your ballot postmarked by June 2nd. So if you dropped it at the post office on June 2nd and it was postmarked, but there's been changes to the post office. They're like their budgets have been cut and things like that.
Yeah.
And so it's no longer guaranteed that if you drop your ballot on June 2nd, it will be postmarked June 2nd.
Okay.
It could be postmarked June 3rd and then not count.
Yeah.
So I would really suggest people either turn their ballot in at a voting center or vote before June 2nd if you can.
Yeah.
Because here in California, you can put your ballot in the mail. You can put in one of those vote center boxes. You can go to a vote center. And the cool thing is in LA County, if you're an LA County voter, you can vote at any vote center in LA County. You don't have to vote anymore at a specific one like near your house.
And legally, your job is supposed to let you go and vote.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And I'm normally like a day of kind of girly.
Yeah.
I like to go in on voting day on June 2nd and vote. But I'm actually going to go in early because I think, the early numbers are also really important.
I think, yeah.
And if you care about a race and if you care about a candidate, they need a strong showing. So just get out there and vote. You're going to do it anyways, hopefully. I hope you're going to do it.
Please.
Get out there.
Also, I'm looking at the camera now.
Yes.
I'm challenging you, right? So I have this theory, right? That there are people who, they're just regular people. They don't think about politics at all, right? Then you start thinking about politics and you become what I call a political hobbyist. Politics becomes like your sports team, right? And you start to like follow certain people. You start to, you're telling your friends like, oh, did you see what AOC said or whatever? These things start to become important to you. And then hopefully you start to level up a little bit and maybe one issue starts to become really important to you. You become what I call a political activist, right? Maybe you start to sign petitions, send emails, do certain things. What I need you all to do is level up once more and become political organizers, right? I want you to think about your vote's important, right? What if you could multiply your vote by 10, right? What if you tried this year to get 10 people you know and care about to vote, right? How much more powerful that would be. So think about your friends, think about your group chats. And be that person who's maybe like, you don't have to be super annoying, but be a little annoying. And, after you listen to this podcast today, text your group chat and go, hey guys, has everybody voted?
Yeah.
You will find out some of your friends won't know there's an election.
Will go, there's an election. Share the lavote.gov or whatever it is, right? So think about how you can organize some people in your life to vote, right? Maybe you plan with your friends like, hey, what if we all went and voted on Sunday and then got brunch? Make it fun. Make it exciting, right? And grow that and make that a tradition with you and your friends that not only do you vote and you vote together and you make voting a thing in your friend groups or your family, but you normalize talking about voting.
Exactly.
And talking about why these things are important to you and what candidates are important to you. More amazing than that, you want to level up even more. Every candidate we've talked about tonight needs canvassers, they need door knockers, they need phone bankers, and you can go to their website and sign up and help them do that because that's how small progressive candidates win is people power. So that's my soapbox.
That's
so
great.
come out of it.
Yeah. I mean, for these
awesome.
candidates, if they don't have money, they need people.
Yeah.
And so we have to defend it. Yeah. The people do have the power.
I wanted to see if there is anything else that you guys think Angelenos should know, things that directly affect our community and quality of life. And we were thinking maybe the unarmed crisis response. If you guys want to talk about that.
This is his baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
It's actually how we met too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So several years ago, we were at a park in North Hollywood at a community meetup. And the question came from somebody that was like, if I'm driving home or biking home or whatever, and I see someone on the side of the road and they're, screaming at the sky, they're clearly in some sort of state and they need help. Who can I call to get them help that'll actually help them?
Besides the police.
And who isn't just the police are going to show up and put them in jail or put them in a psych hold or something like that.
Exacerbate the problem.
And what we learned is that the county was trying to create programs like this, but because of the size of LA County and the resources they had available to them, the wait times were 2 to 4 hours to get someone from the time you called to someone showing up to help them.
Whoa.
And you were supposed to be there too the entire time.
Yeah.
They asked you if you could stay with the person, but if this is a total stranger, how am I going to stay with them, get them to stay there? So we knew we needed a local alternative. And so we started advocating. And we found that there had been, in 2020, after all the George Floyd stuff going on, there had been a motion put forward at city council to create some sort of program like this. But what had happened is it had come back and been noted and filed. That's basically where they're like, oh, this sounds good, but we don't have a plan to go forward with it or money to go forward with it. So we just shoved it away somewhere. And it was at the risk of expiring. But we just gotten this new council member elected, Eunice Hernandez, and we talked with her, and she had like a background in public safety and criminal justice reform, and she was like, I want to champion this. So we got it pushed through at council. We got won money that year at the budget through advocacy, through sending emails, through going and making public comment, through doing a press conference, all this sort of stuff. And we got them to create a pilot program. So in 3 districts around the city, if you called 911 and there was a list of call types and the person was nonviolent, unarmed, they would instead send this unarmed crisis response that could connect people to social services, mental health services, all this stuff. We've now grown that program to 9 police divisions around the city. Oh, cool. Covers about 44% of the city.
Wow.
This year in the budget, we're trying to win another 3 districts to cover 12 of the 21. Our hope is to cover the whole city with some sort of service like this by 2028 for the Olympics.
Yeah. Wow.
And we just got it here in North Hollywood. We just got it here in District 2. So we are a newer district to finally get that. And it's really great just knowing that there's someone you can call and get that person who is going through a mental health crisis the care that they actually need, and they're not going to be met with with violence, reactive services, that they're not going to have a gun pulled into their face, that there's going to be somebody there that has that specialized training to meet them where they're at.
Yeah. And in 2024, there were 33 police involved shootings, and a third of them were someone with mental health crisis. And every year you probably see that our police liabilities are really high. You probably hear about shootings and things like this. You may have heard about stories of like people calling to get their child, their son, their loved one help, and instead violence ensues.
Yeah.
And we found the best way to avoid that violence is just have the person who shows up to handle the call not have a weapon. And have the training to de-escalate and to get people connected to the services they really need. These unarmed crisis response services will drive someone to a sobering center if they are, if they're on drugs or whatever. They'll drive them to an urgent care center to get mental health needs, all these sort of things. And then they also do follow-ups. They follow up to see if the person's still getting treatment and things like that. So it's a new way to imagine community safety and public safety in the city. And it's meant to be like an add-on to the police. It relieves pressure off the police so the police can deal with the more violent calls and things like that. We have a myriad array of problems and we want a myriad array of solutions.
Yeah.
So this is something we've been fighting for. And like there are candidates on your ballot who oppose this and candidates on your ballot who support this.
Yeah.
Why would anyone oppose this?
Well, because they think it's
they're
anti-police
funded by the police.
Or it's not even the thing that's anti-police. Sometimes they're just like, well, I've seen people be like, this is just throwing money at people.
Yeah.
Like, why are we supporting these people? We could be spending our money elsewhere. We could be spending our money over here.
From what I understand, this doesn't even take money from LEPD.
It doesn't. No,
So-
it's funded totally separately. Yeah.
And it costs less. It's more. It's so,
It costs $85 to send police on an
Yeah.
hour call. It costs $35 to send these
Yeah.
people on a call.
So if somebody
probably
doesn't care
less-
about being morally responsible, hey,
Yeah.
if you care about being fiscally responsible, we're hitting that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe less liability claims, right? One other important topic that I think you guys might have wanted to talk about, which you hit very briefly earlier, was charter reform.
Yes.
I think this is like the first time in 20 years 25 years that we're going to be reforming the Los Angeles charter. Yeah. Can you tell us what specifically like stands out to you in terms of reforming our charter this year? There's something.
Yeah. Well, have you ever heard of like ranked choice voting? Right? Like, imagine if we could change the way we voted. Imagine if, like, right now, right, we have 60 some people running for governor, right?
And
imagine
it's a jungle primary.
Imagine if instead of having to just pick one, you could like pick your top 5 and you could rank them 1 through 5.
Oh, okay.
And then if your number 1 lost, your vote then went to your number 2. in the next round, right? So like that's ranked choice voting. That's what got Zora Mamdani elected.
Okay.
Right?
What is it called?
Ranked
Ranked choice. Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know.
Okay.
So you rank your
Okay.
choices
Ranked
like
choice.
1 to 5.
Okay.
And the idea is that they add up all the votes and if nobody gets over 50%, they eliminate the lowest vote getter and all of his votes go to those people's second choices.
Okay.
So
And
your
then
vote
they
still
keep
counts.
eliminating the
Okay.
lowest one until someone gets
Yeah.
over 50%.
So New York City does this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So New York
Okay.
City does this, and this is something they're considering for charter reform.
Oh.
Another thing they're considering is council expansion. Right now, we have 15 council seats representing 4 million people. It's like 265,000 people per council member. We're considering expanding it to possibly as high as 25.
It's currently like being a mayor of a small city,
Yeah.
each council district.
Yeah.
Wow.
And these are people that are supposed to be easily accessible to you, that you're supposed to be able to talk to. How can one person equitably represent
Yeah.
265,000 people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So
There's also just like
exciting.
kind of boring bureaucratic things that I think are really important. Right now, we budget year by year. But what happens if you have something that's like a 5-year plan, like building a convention center? Well, sometimes like halfway through a project, funds are not for something because we didn't budget for it properly. So there's a plan to switch over. One of the charter reforms they're suggesting is switching over to a 2-year budgeting cycle. So we always plan at least 2 years out in advance, but also having what's called a capital investment plan,
Okay.
which is a 5-year plan of like, what are our big projects that are going to happen over a number of years?
Yeah.
And let's lay out the money for them in advance so that we know like sort of what's coming up and when we're going to need money when.
Okay.
And we can plan for all of that.
Would that be like the metro expansion?
So Metro's a county thing, but yeah, that would be something like that. Or
yeah.
building the convention center.
Okay.
But also it could be things like maintenance, like right now paving our streets is on like a 7-year cycle. It's supposed to be like every 7 years we repave all the streets in the city. But because we budget year by year, sometimes we allow people to jump the line or we do different things. Having this laid out in a CIP would allow us to plan for the future.
Yeah.
We're one of the only cities in the world that doesn't plan for the future that way with a CIP. So like there's just like nerdy bureaucratic things like that are important.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen, just they're currently considering 65 of these charter reforms. Not all of them are going to pass. A lot of them are still like half baked, right? They have to be reconsidered.
Okay.
But they're going to pick a number of them and they're going to package them up based off like whether it's like government reforms, voting reforms, things like that. And then those will appear, the ones that get passed by city council will appear on our November ballot.
Okay.
So
that
you'll
was
be
my
able to
follow-up
vote.
question.
So any of these, we
November.
won't change how we vote. We won't change any of these things until people get to vote.
Okay.
But there's going to be a lot of important things. Like one thing they're considering, and maybe you have an opinion on this, maybe you don't, but should 16-year-olds be allowed to vote? Like that's
man.
something they're considering, right?
I mean, that's
Whoa.
one way to encourage people
Yeah.
to vote is by, you get really excited to get your driver's license.
And
Yeah,
like,
that's
I don't
true.
know
Yeah.
if you've been like kids are really smart nowadays.
I don't-
like they're
Yeah,
like,
I will say,
like,
I
they're
have
really
a-
involved.
I have a teen sister that I have been she's lived with me for like the last 2 years. Incredibly book smart. Street smart, questionable, questionable, but
a reason to engage the youth
Yeah.
even more.
yes,
Yeah.
it also
Yeah.
would be great if if 16-year-olds are voting, then it needs to be part of our high school curriculum. How do you vote? What are the different things? And because they do teach us about, like the 3 different branches of government and all that kind of stuff, but they don't teach us about like our local government.
Yeah.
So in high
there's
school, at least
studies
I didn't learn.
that have shown that like getting people while they're still at home, while they're more secure in their financials and all that, getting them to vote then and build like a habit of voting helps them become longer term voters in their lives.
Okay. Whoa.
So yeah, so
Interesting.
So like basically think of the charter as the rule book of our city, right?
Yeah.
Like also the hope is one of the things they're going to pass is that rather than waiting 20, 30 years to do this, they're going to start to create a process where every 10 years they're going to review the charter.
That makes sense to me. Okay. Oh, this is so exciting. The older I get, the more I'm like, yeah, this stuff really matters and like everyone needs to know and like be aware of it. So thank you guys. This is so exciting. Okay. One more thing to end our episode. So we have this thing, a segment called What's Good LA, where each of the guests tell us about a cool event that's happening the week that the episode is coming out or like a couple weeks after that. So yeah, do you guys have an event that you guys want to share? Something cool that's going on?
If you liked what we talked about here, but you want to go even more in depth, maybe you want to walk through your whole ballot, right?
Yeah.
There's going to be all over the city, orgs are going to be doing what are called ballot parties, right? Where people get together, they, fill out their ballots together. They talk about things. They look at the voter guides. Maybe there's a host or something to answer questions. So the organization we work for, LA Forward, is throughout the month of May is doing a whole bunch of ballot parties. But specifically the week this airs, there's going to be 2 ballot parties, I believe, on Tuesday and Thursday. One in the West Valley, one in somewhere else. I forget now.
Yeah, West Valley is the 28th.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
The one at Hermosillo.
oh yeah, we have one at have you been to the Hermosillo and like it's in Northeast Los Angeles?
No, I don't think I've been there.
Oh, it's really great. It's a really cool bar.
But then also, if you're like a last minute person, the day before the election on June 1st, there's going to be an online Zoom cram session.
Nice.
You can get all your information in and you can vote and then turn in your ballot early the next morning at a vote center. But if you want to learn about any of those, our org has them. You can go to laforward.org/calendar.
Okay.
And you can see all the things we're doing there.
Or
Awesome.
check it out on Instagram too.
And then
Yeah.
on June 1st, you want to talk about what we're doing?
Yeah. So
Ooh, yeah.
if you already voted and you got it out of the way and you're an A+ student and
Yeah.
you want to get out and enjoy yourself, you can come to our locals night at Lawless Brewery, which is the first Monday of every month. We try to do a little something different every month. We've had mayoral candidates, we've had Kenneth Mejia and Marissa Roy, and then like some months we just have organizations come out, and some months we just chill.
Nice.
So Pride's coming up. Maybe we might do something for that.
yeah.
Kind of celebrate each other and build progressive community together, because that's the only way we're going to get out of this is if we build community together.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's called NoHo Locals, but anyone in LA is welcome to come.
Yeah.
We've
to the
had people
Valley.
come from all over LA County. Come hang out, have a drink. It's at this brewery called Lawless Brewing. They have a ton of great stuff. And
From
and
seven to closing.
Awesome.
build community with
Amazing.
us.
That's amazing. Thank you guys so much for being here and helping us understand these really important things. And you guys are awesome. Thank you for everything that you guys
You're
just
awesome.
do
Thank
in
you for
general.
doing what you do.
Go vote by June 2nd.
Yes.
By June 2nd.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome.
Or earlier.
or
Or
earlier.
earlier.
All right. We'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.